Again, my name is Aris Coronel. I'm a solutions engineer for VMware Philippines, and I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out to attend this session. So this afternoon, I will be talking about DevSecops in a cloud smart hybrid setting. Mainly because data security is, one of the most important considerations within any organization. We always hear of major data breaches, may mga customer data that was lost, costing a lot of money. So the question really is, how do we safeguard your company's applications to protect against these types of losses? So this is where DevSecOps comes in. And in this session, we will talk about how to drive security into a DevOps process and why traditional security testing doesn't work well within it. We'll examine some strategies to speed up security testing process and develop a DevSecOps approach. And finally, we will be talking about the relevance of the cloud in terms of DevSecOps and some of the tools and methods to implement security testing automation. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, but before we start discussion on DevSecOps per se, I'd like to start off with making sure we have a good understanding, a common understanding of what is DevOps, and why does it seem like a lot of people is moving towards the direction of implementing DevOps, and the primary reason why is that waterfall is dead. As you know, waterfall is one of the application development methodologies, pero no one is using it anymore. It used to work in environments where quarterly or monthly releases were the norm. However, of course, times have changed. Clients now expect quick turnaround. They don't want to wait months to see their needs met. In fact, they want to have defects, bugs fixed in days. And to add to that, technologies like cloud is also changing, raising the expectations of for development teams. Now, with waterfall already gone, agile comes in and fills some of the gaps. The agile method works to speed up the delivery of applications. Having smaller releases really helps. Allow for quicker client feedback. Moreover, agile allows product owners to define sprint backlogs and development teams to prioritize their work. So it gives everybody, the flexibility to determine what works and what doesn't work more quickly. Now, in the next slide, when you look at the screen, you consider the three major parts of an application life cycle. So kita natin si development, si testing, si operations. Si agile has solved the development and testing process, but really did not touch on operations. So typically in the waterfall world, these three areas are kept separate and being run by different groups. Now, DevOps, on the other hand, brings teams together. No more development team, no more testing team, no more operations team. Isa na lang yung grupo. Same group, one team has the responsibility for developing the application, testing the application, releasing the application, and keep it running. And the DevOps team does it all. Now, Agile and DevOps are not the same, but they typically go hand in hand, right? Agile is a development methodology, while DevOps is a cultural shift. It's a way of thinking about an overall application lifecycle. Now, with Agile development can move quickly along with the entire release. So yung things like deployments, patching, testing, the whole process moves much more faster. The DevOps methodology empowers teams to closely define, to develop and release applications. Now, with DevOps, everything needs to happen quickly, and things cannot wait. No? The largest problem that we see with most areas is this lack of automation. Without a mature automation system in place, implementing a true DevOps will really struggle. No? And security is not immune to the effects of DevOps. That's why DevSecOps has to be achieved to make sure that security can keep up with the pace of the project. And the quickest way for security to become irrelevant here is to be left behind. So let's try to look at what security looks like. Security is different in a DevOps world. Now, titignan natin dito, this is what a normal security scan looks like. It starts off with the developer, developing code, and then the code is sent to the security team. The security team naman reviews it. They scan the code, creates a PDF of the results of the scan. Then they look for false positives. And then finally, the security defects are fixed. All in all, on average, this takes 1 to 2 weeks. And it's a very, very manual process. Now, the problem is that this won't work anymore in a DevOps model. Bakit? It's too slow. Too many people are involved. And the security team has to run the scans and has to actively involve the development team to give them the source code and work with them to try to resolve any problems during the build. And there's no empowerment of the development team, because in a true DevOps world, the development teams need to have the power to be able to run the scan themselves. So with that, let's talk now a little about DevSecOps per se, and how to integrate security into the DevOps world. Now, if you look at the definition of DevSecOps, really it is how you take security and put it into the DevOps process. How do you merge the two together and kind of still make sure that from a security perspective, you have all the checkpoints that you need implemented. Now, when you're developing a plan of how to do this, the goal really should be to make the development teams have more ownership and accountability of the process. This means that integrating automation into every step of the process is really going to be key. Now, as with all DevOps, automation is really, again, the key to DevSecOps. If you're going to want to be agile, you want to be quick, and you want to be able to get rid of all the manual processes that we had before. But you also have to take note na may penalty yan, because there's a good chance that when you move over to DevSecOps, some of the tools that you've used for years with your existing process might not work anymore, because everything has to happen quickly. So we kind of really have to rethink how we do it, how do we automate it, and what tools can we use. Now, let's talk about shifting security to the left. I'm pretty sure that you probably heard a lot about it in the IT industry today. But what does that actually mean when we shift things to the left? Well, in security perspective, that means taking a lot of the things that we used to do, for example, in the QA process, in the QA step, or in production, or later in the life cycle, and moving it closer to the development phase. Now, this is a big change because most people tend to perform testing at the end of the application life cycle. Now, when we move security to the left, we take things that we used to do in production like vulnerability scanning, or in QA like static scanning, and we move all of those to the development phase. Right? And just like everything else in DevOps, security has to be moved to the left. And it has to be done in a manner that's more quickly. It has to be done by the development team. And the development team has to own this. Now, the problema lang is that they have to be the jack of all trades. No? Not only do they have to be developers, they have also to have a fundamental understanding of security. Now, the primary goal of DevSecOps is to enable development. Now, we want to enable them to be able to do their own security, right? Now, how do we do that? Well, the security team needs to provide a framework to the development team in terms of what types of tests do they need to run, what things should be fixed, what are considered critical. We need to tell them what tools that they should be using. And finally, security teams should provide the expertise, and we should help them understand how to fix issues. All in all, the security team and the DevOps team really should be considered as partners, because it's their job together to jointly ensure that the application is secure. But then the DevOps team is responsible for the application security testing and ensuring that the application is secure, while the security team ultimately is accountable for it. So now the question, how does cloud become, how does this relate, all of this? How does cloud and DevSecOps relate? Then first, let's talk about some of the goals that people have in going to the cloud. The first would be speed, right? Of course, in the cloud, you can deploy faster, you can patch faster, you can be more agile in the cloud, you can respond to business decisions quicker, or you can adapt. You can even spin up more servers, if you like, to handle processing that may suddenly come up sporadically. And finally, the most important thing is that cloud can be more secure. Cloud makes security a lot easier than being on, for example, traditional on-prem infrastructure. Well, a good example of this is network segmentation. Historically, a lot of our on-prem networks have been flat. And to be able to segregate the network, this requires a lot of manual work. Kailangan mo ng network teams, kailangan mo ng specialized, expensive software. But if you take this to the cloud, all of this can be made very easy. So, DevOps and cloud are really partners. And to truly capture the value of either DevOps and cloud, you need to have them both. Because when you think about the advantages of DevOps and the cloud, somewhat they are the same, which is why they partner so well. So you go to DevOps, for instance, to be faster and more agile. That sounds a lot like the cloud. You want to go with DevOps to be able to respond to your business needs quicker and adapt. That also sounds like cloud. You'll also have the ability to be more secure in a DevOps model, right? and to do so quicker. Now, the only effective way of going DevOps is by going in the cloud. You could do DevOps without going to the cloud, but it would be very, very hard. And the location of the cloud here doesn't really matter. The cloud that you're using might be internal, might be external, could be public cloud or be private cloud. Now, as long as that cloud can be easily managed and maintained via an API, for example, you can still get the advantages of DevOps and DevSecops. However, there are some things that you need to watch out for, because while the cloud enables agility, it promotes faster change, the cloud can also undercut your agility in one critical aspect, provider lock-in. Because once you have heavily invested in a certain cloud platform, it's often hard to move to another cloud provider, right? And migrating VMs from one cloud provider to another may be easy enough if maliit lang yung environment, you have a relatively small environment. But if you have thousands of VMs and extensive cloud networking, you have attached identity access management, and monitoring configurations specifically tailored to your VMs, it will be difficult to move to another cloud when you have to. So you have to be mindful of cloud services that rely on proprietary components that may impact your portability to other providers or in-house operations. And this is especially true if applications have to be re-architected in order to run on a service provider platform. You have always to remember the definition of cloud native computing is that it is ultimately about allowing you to take advantage of hyperscale cloud providers while maintaining the ability to consider multi and hybrid cloud architectures. Now, as Raghuram, our Chief Executive Officer at VMware best puts it, it's no longer about a cloud-first approach. It's about being cloud smart. It's about organizations having the freedom to choose the right cloud based on their business goals. Now, with VMware's cloud agnostic approach, VMware is really positioned to deliver a faster and smarter path to cloud for DevSecOps. And the good news is that, VMware has partnered with all of the major hyperscalers out there, from AWS to Microsoft Azure. You have Google Platform, Alibaba, IBM Cloud, and others. And our partnership allow customers the freedom of choice. As we have taken the VMware technology stack that you know and trust, you are already familiar with, and deployed it into these cloud providers. It's about laying out a consistent infrastructure, a consistent operations environment, and a consistent developer model for how developers build and secure applications, and also how IT runs and manages these applications once they are deployed. Now, another important concept in DevOps and DevSecOps is continuous integration and delivery, or what you might be familiar with what is called CICD. Now, in this picture that you see, continuous integration is the first step in the process. What this means is that when you check in code, it is integrated into a shared environment, at which point the integration test will occur. Now, the CD part of CICD usually stands for continuous deployment. It's an automated release to production that happens when the build is determined to be ready. But CD can also mean continuous delivery, except that the build might not be released every time to production. And you can see here, this is the whole is what we call our DevSecops. It's really applying the practice to make the end-to-end development lifecycle highly efficient and as automated as possible. When you talk about the advantages of CICD, it's similar to the advantage of DevOps. It's very fast, it's very agile. That's why typical security processes won't work here. Now, there are a few processes that should be in place to really make sure that DevSecOps is successful. And you have to take note of this. The first is automated builds. We need to make sure that automation is in place so that the development teams can automatically build and push their code to the next environment. And then they need to have some sort of an automation tool, like Jenkins, for example, or open source concourse in place. So we can integrate our DevSecOps process with their automated tool. And we should have some sort of security testing in place, and as well as vulnerability scanning. Now, this is the way VMware envisions DevSecOps, as I would fondly call it, DevSecOps the VMware way. Now, in the DevSecOps pipeline, there are different steps, and in each one of them, you will have to integrate different security measures. For example, from the code itself, the way you are developing that code, we have the tons of development tools that you can use. The way that you are building the container image, if you're using Kubernetes, for example, build it from different layers. There are application dependencies. You have application runtimes, things that you have to think about. So in the integration portion, we have the Tanso build service to help you build your images. But even if you have the container image already, you will need to understand that there are no vulnerabilities on those different layers. And you have to understand that if everything is right and configured correctly, make sure that everything is fine. And we have the carbon black image scanner to scan your container image, make sure that they are secure. Then when you're pushing that out into your registry, and that registry has different images. And here we have the carbon black registry connector that will allow you to scan all the images in the registry, which also integrates with the Tanso application catalog, a curated catalog of applications that you can use to build your applications. Now, another crucial step is the preparation of the manifest here. The way that you are basically configuring the workload to run in Kubernetes. And then when you're getting into the deploy phase and you want to deploy this in Kubernetes, you need some kind of a gate, a admission controller to be able to stop deployment of the workload if in any way it's not aligned with your policy. That's where we have our Tanso mission control and carbon black container security for that. And then finally, we have the runtime, all the different workloads in the cluster, how they are connected to each other. Are they consuming something outside of the cluster? On all of these different aspects of runtime security that you need to be aware. And again, we have Tanso mission control and carbon black container security also for that. So with that, let's try to bring this all together. And help you deliver the better outcomes through the lens of DevSecOps. Now, the first outcome is really about developer velocity, where developers can now spend more time to write their code. They can be more productive and release code more frequently. The second outcome is improved security posture. You can now reduce time to remediate vulnerabilities, reduce effort to secure for security compliance within your organization. And the third and last outcome is operational efficiency, making management of hundreds of Kubernetes clusters simple and easy across teams and across clouds. So, with all of that, if you want to have further learnings on what we have discussed here, I would advise you to follow the links in this presentation. Of course, we are sharing a copy of this presentation where you can find the links to know more about DevSecOps and the various VMware tools that will help you in your DevSecOps journey. And with that, I bid you a wonderful day ahead, and big thank you to all. Thank you very much.